Modern culture often portrays fathers as idiots, inept, and oblivious. American sentiment loves the clueless and ineffective father, like in The Simpsons, Family Guy, and Everybody Loves Raymond. At first glance, they may come off as fun, entertaining, and relatable shows, but years down the road, how much do shows or movies like this influence the fathers of today or tomorrow? Because when culture normalizes passive fatherhood, it can shape generations. Today, fathers face a complex struggle, balancing active caregiving and emotional presence with modern economic pressures, often struggling with isolation, burnout, and conflicting cultural expectations. A recent article by the National Fatherhood Initiative cites that American cinema is arguably the most influential storyteller in the world. However, instead of having Hollywood tell us what a father should be, let's turn to the early Christians and see how they viewed fatherhood. For starters, the idea of fatherhood today doesn't compare to what it was like in the time of the early Christian. Back then, Christian dads weren't working the modern 9-to-5 job. They weren't working for retirement, there was no corporate ladder, and they weren't going on constant business trips that took them out of the home. Yet they still labored for long days. The difference was the integration of work and family. There weren't institutional safety nets, and because of this, it required families and communities to stick together to survive. They viewed home as the hub of life, work, and survival. It was like their own monastery. Fathers worked alongside their wives to maintain a household and care for their children, all while dealing with a society that condemned them for their beliefs. They saw the role of a father as one who provides, guides, teaches, and protects. And early Christians redefined what it meant to be a natural father. Human fatherhood was seen as a participation in God's own fatherhood, a divine gift, not merely a biological state. Fatherhood began at conception, not at birth, and it never ended. It was ordered toward God as a primary vocation. In other words, they saw it as a calling that took priority over secondary pursuits. With this mindset, providing meant more than just being the physical breadwinner, bringing home food or money. It included building character, establishing virtue, and forming your child's soul. But raising children during a time of mass persecution proved difficult. Despite the danger, they still taught their children that life is worth living, yet there are greater things worth dying for. It was also the father's responsibility to set the narrow path, to lay out the standards, and discipline when those standards were broken. And the early Christian dad redefined discipline, a word rooted in the Latin discere, meaning to learn, the same root word for disciple. The whole point was to have your children behave the way you desire. The early Christians, taking after Jesus' instruction, taught their children in the same way. To the Christian, this meant that discipline wasn't arbitrary punishment or violence, but patient formation through instruction and personal example. A key witness to this practice was St. John Chrysostom. In his homilies on Ephesians 6, he reminded fathers not to provoke their children to anger, but to bring them up in the discipline and instruction of the Lord, something St. Paul frequently expressed as well. He spoke about this because during his time, some parents were treating their children very poorly. They were disinheriting them, disowning them, and treating them overbearingly, not as free but as slaves. Chrysostom noted that when you build spiritual ties first, natural obedience naturally follows, meaning instructing children in faith first will then lead them to want to be obedient to the parents. And this comes from a good study of the Ten Commandments, where you'll find honor your father and mother, amongst other things. He urged fathers to ground their children in Scripture from the earliest age possible, knowing that early spiritual formation sets the foundation for a lifetime. He also believed that children are never too young to begin listening to Scripture. And according to him, and to sum up his belief on instructing children, it was to be done through love rather than anger. And there wasn't a better place for this formation than the home. Borrowing from their Jewish roots, early Christian fathers acted as a primary catechist, spiritual leader, and head teacher of the household. Their home was viewed as a first altar, the domestic church. Due to Roman persecutions, making it to a communal mass wasn't always safe or possible. It wasn't like today in America, where we can safely go to mass on Sunday, go eat brunch afterwards, then kick back on the couch and watch some football on the TV. The early Christians were hunted and killed. Due to this danger, sometimes they couldn't make it to Mass as a family, so the father would go themselves and bring the Eucharist back to the family to give out. And this is why St. Augustine would frequently call the natural fathers in his parish my fellow bishops. After all, the word bishop derives from the Greek word episkopos, which means supervisor. To St. Augustine, the father was the first bishop, the first supervisor of the faith. He would tell them, "Fulfill my office in your homes." This meant the father was actively involved in every dimension of his children's formation. For spiritual formation and taking after their Jewish roots, fathers taught their children the Torah, the first 5 books of the Bible. They also taught the rest of Scripture, focusing heavily on the gospel and teaching the Apostles' Creed. It was also the father's duty to maintain the house and family prayer and lead the home as a sanctuary. And this wasn't about domination over wives or children. It was about leading his family as a flock, just as Jesus leads the church as the Good Shepherd. And because in ancient times, education wasn't outsourced to a secular state or a modern schooling system, fathers were hands-on in passing down their practical trade skills to their sons. Much like St. Joseph taught Jesus the trade of carpentry, the craft wasn't just a job. It was how a family sustained its autonomy, built work ethic, served its local community, and built a relationship with God. To sum all that up, for the early Christian, fatherhood was integrated mentorship, raising a child in faith, character, and practical skills under one roof. But in ancient Rome, Christianity was an illegal, persecuted faith. A well-known fact, but what is often overlooked is a physical and spiritual weight on the father to shelter his family, maintain secret worship, and ensure access to the Eucharist. For centuries, from Nero to Diocletian, Christians were persecuted for not worshiping the Roman gods and the Roman emperor. They were executed for simply being Christian. But this didn't stop them from worshiping God and tending to their family. Take the story of St. Leonides of Alexandria, father of the church father Origen. From the church historian Eusebius, we know he died a martyr during the persecution under Roman Emperor Septimus Severus in 202 AD. But before he was killed, he cultivated the brilliant young mind of his son Origen from childhood and taught him the Holy Scriptures. Leonides was beheaded, but his courage forged one of the greatest theologians in history. Christian fathers like Leonides embraced their role as a father, the protector, and the head of their family. They spiritually guided their family, ensuring that they received the Eucharist, whether that meant risking their lives to attend Mass or bringing the Eucharist back themselves. In doing so, the early Christian fathers were emulating St. Joseph without realizing it. Though formal and more emphasized devotion for St. Joseph didn't come until later in church history, he was their implicit model of fatherhood, a quiet guardian who was attentive to divine warnings. Like St. Joseph leading his family into Egypt, early Christian fathers took on the responsibility of protecting their households from both physical and spiritual corruption. So how did we get from the ancient domestic church to the clueless sitcom dad? There's a bunch of factors that could make a video in itself, but one that sums it all up is a physical and non-physical presence of the father in the home and around the family. Whether it be the outsourcing of education to the state, the Industrial Revolution removing the father from the home, or media satire that replaced the protective patriarch with the oblivious dad, each did the same thing. They took dad away from home. Now, cultural pressures today look different, but the underlying spiritual battles remain the same. Fathers are still called to be the wall protecting their families against a culture that trivializes their existence. And the early Christian writers argued against the passive Hollywood-defined fathers who drift through life. Instead, they realized their home is the hub for spiritual growth, their domestic church, and their primary vocation. If this changed how you look at fatherhood, or you learned something new, go ahead and hit that like button, subscribe for more Catholic theology and history, and drop a comment below. How can men today reclaim spiritual leadership in their homes? Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video.